Oh, keeping up with the Kardashians, keeping up with the Leo theming. All right, who do we got here on this fungus cave? We got Sora Military, regular Marc, Sleepy Krilla, and Peat. You had a mod for Tomomo Casual? Looking like quite a few pretty situationally aggressive characters. 3 of the characters in this game all have +1 attack. And all relatively low HP as well, sub 5 HP for all 4 characters. Krilla doesn't have that +1 attack, but she does have that defensive passive, will be able to stand up nicely against all of these semi-aggro characters that are also in the lobby with her. So I respect the choice there. Field events for today are Air Raid and Battlefield. Ooh, okay. Very aggressive field events for us to have a lobby with these characters in it. Air Raid will, you know, tick down a lot of these low health characters, bringing them that much closer to death. And Battlefield will, honestly, it'll do the same. It'll open up a lot more win opportunities for these characters who like to go for wins. Marc especially gets wins for her passive. Military Sora likes the battle because of her passive. Peat likes the battle because he has got a nice stat line. And Krilla is going to get pulled into the mess because of the other characters that she's in the party with. Krilla, however, is the first player to start a fight with another player, opting to fight Marc, dealing 1 damage and taking 0 in return, having to pay her the tax of 1 star, the Krilla tax. If you will. Sora Military getting the first neutral monster kill of the game. Peat deciding he wants a bite out of that. Tries to fight Sora Military, finds the 1-shot, gets a nice, quick 2 wins. Getting 2 wins early on is extremely nice. You know, even if it is soured a little bit by dying to the chicken immediately after. Getting 2 wins pretty early is nice. It means you can rush level 3. You can hit level 2 as soon as you get 10 stars, and you have an instant way to get level 3. A lot of good cards are locked behind level 3. Pete's Hyper is a level 2, so he's not worried about rushing level 3. Air Raid comes out, takes Marc out. Peat revives instantly. If you're, you know, it isn't just the fact that all 4 of these characters are low health. It's the fact that, you know, the reason why they would be unhappy to see Air Raid, you know? Because as Peat decides to immediately fight Military Sora on the turn he gets up, Military Sora's passive working against her here to make her vulnerable to another Peat attack. Krilla wants a bite out of everything, deciding to fight Peat, does not find any damage, has to pay the tax, fights Sora immediately after, does find a kill there, however. That is 3 kills onto Sora, spread out between 2 different players. This is the downside of Sora's passive. It's nice that she gets to get up whenever she falls in battle and act immediately again, but when she does get up, she's only at half health, very vulnerable to falling down immediately after. I don't even have time to analyze anything that's happening because the players are just fighting each other every turn. There's at least 1 or 2 fights every turn. Okay, you know what? Listening to the commentator, Krilla decides not to fight Peat, and then, you know, pulls a just kidding, lol, fights Marc, takes her out, another 2 wins for her, and kills a chicken. Up to 5 wins now. Krilla is now set up for a quick level 4, which, you know, the requirement for that is 5 wins. Peat takes 1 damage to the Roboball. This is truly, you know, I think it's very easy for me. I don't know about others, but it's very easy for me to look at a lobby that doesn't have any +2 attack characters and say, like, oh, there's no aggro characters in this game. But that's not true at all. There are, like, 4 aggro characters in this game. Just because none of them have +2 attack doesn't mean anything. Also, first Lucky Sevens. This stream sponsored by the Church of Lucky Sevens. Joined today, our first Church of Lucky Sevens drawn by Krilla. I had a joke that we came up with last stream about what Lucky Sevens would be sponsored by, and I completely fucking forgot to do. We would do like a fake ad read for it. Anyway, I completely forgot what it was supposed to be. As our players are finally taking a break, we do get our first fishing match of the stream here in the commentated game. Hilarious, meaning I don't have to play it, and I'm super down to not have to play it. gives me a brief moment to analyze the fact that how reliant are these characters on card draw, right? Because Sora Military and Peat can utilize their hypers pretty fucking effectively. I apologize for swearing, but pretty effectively to guarantee wins. Well, guarantee kills, and Marc can use hers to guarantee wins. Krilla's gonna be happy because it'll slow down the aggression. An air raid immediately after that fishing event does take out Peat. I don't know. This game is very volatile. You know, it's very easy to say, oh my god, Krilla already has 7 wins thanks to that fishing at turn 10. But remember, you know, this game is very volatile. All of these characters in this lobby right now are extremely good at generating wins. So do not be fooled. Krilla does discard the Lucky Sevens, branding her a heretic. As our other players meander around the board. Yeah, Hanabot is just not feeling the fishing today. She thought this game was even less likely than the previous game, but lo and behold, it happens. As Krilla is not our first player to hit level 2, is our second player to hit level 2, joining Marc. Nice seagull kill for Sora. This map is interesting. There are 2 lanes, basically. Hold on. Marc is deciding she wants to fight Krilla. Might be able to do some damage. Does deal lethal damage while on a home panel. Gets a nice chunk of change for her pocket and manages to level up. Does indeed fulfill that prophecy of the quick level 3. Is the first player to break through to level 3. Peat and Sora still needing to find their way home so that they can follow suit. This map is Fungus Cave. It is 2 lanes, but most players generally just won't take the inner lane ever. The goo is just annoying to deal with, annoying and uninteresting to the point where who wants to land on a goo panel? No one, you know, so most players opt to take the outer route, especially when boss spawns. Boss is only on the inner route, making that goo infused inner route even less, what is the word? I ruined my flow because I can't think of the word. As Peat hits level 2, and Sora on the other side of the board dies to a seagull. I don't even know what word I was trying to think of. A quick level 3 out of Peat, very nice. Gonna choose wins normal again. Is set up to get a nice quick level 4 as well because of the 5 wins earned earlier. Every player in this lobby has at least 3 wins. With 3 out of the 4 players having at least 5. It is a very, very bloody game thus far. Another stack for Krilla off the latest chicken. She is now at max stacks, holding on to 2 hypers. Peat finds Sora after just being revived by dying to that chicken. Finds just enough damage to take her out thanks to the ice panels, then gets the roll and a bonus panel. Pushing Peat up and over 5 wins and into 7 wins. Peat is the closest person to summoning the boss right now. Well, no, Marc is at normal points. She will be able to do it soon. Krilla transforms her hyper, realizing she has 4 stacks, is ready to cast it at a moment's notice, instantly killing all players because they do have low health pools. It's just a matter of when will she use it. As Peat falls to a Roboball on the other side of the map. He's chilling though. He's chosen wins Norma. We're gonna see what players decide to do once boss spawns. If anybody who gets up to Norma 4. Speaking of Norma 4, Marc makes it there through Stars Norma actually. And decides to continue going for Stars Norma. That was my question, was as the boss spawns, what are players going to decide to do? Will they want to go for wins once the boss spawns? Because it'll be a lot more difficult. But with the advent of our very aggro cast of characters, it might be a viable strat. The boss might actually die quickly, especially with a Krilla in the lobby, going to do some nice splash damage to the boss whenever she does decide to use that hyper. Marc finds a chicken, gets up to 6 wins, but looks to be pretty content to continue going for stars. Sora gets their first Norma. Probably going to choose wins here since they already have the clear con met. Marc finds a Sleepy Krilla out by herself, 1 HP down from max, uses Deceptive Disarming, but does not actually disarm a card, does not find any damage on the Krilla, only gains the tax. Taking 3 damage from Retaliation, going down to 1 HP, is now extremely vulnerable. If Krilla were to roll low, she would have had to make a difficult decision on whether she wanted to end her turn in front of Krilla or fight her herself. Luckily, Krilla rolls a 6. Marc finds herself nice and comfy, in a very good board position to have when you only have 1 HP. Peat is our first player to be given the choice. Do you want to land on a goo or do you want to land on a boss panel? No, I want the goo. Boss panel's too scary at this point in time, even for the low HP defensive Peat. I respect it. Air Raid comes through, takes Marc out. Honestly, if you're Marc, I think you're happy to be taken out by Air Raid, because it means you can get up with full health whenever you do successfully roll that recovery turn. Sora falls to a Robo Ball. Once again, will get up immediately on the next turn with 2 HP, as Krilla finds level 3 and Peat finds level 4. Krilla chooses Windsnorma because she already has the goal met. Peat opts not to go for Windsnorma. Like I said, it's very understandable if after level 4 you want to pivot away from Winds and over to Stars. I would not blame you at all for that decision, because Winds do become more difficult to acquire once the boss spawns. And in fact, Peat is immediately following through with that decision and landing on a bonus panel, as is Sora. Marc gets up after only a couple turns down. Krilla is fighting Sora. She says, I want to go for this one-shot, and she finds it. It's another 2 wins for herself. Krilla says, you know that thing you were saying about wins becoming harder to acquire once boss spawns? Fuck that. I'm up to 9 wins. I got a quick and easy route to level 5. As Peat does use Blue Crow the second against Marc and finds a one-shot. Very nice. Steals a nice chunk of change from her. The very turn she gets up. You hate to see it. It's a horrible feeling to get up and then immediately have to get back down again. As Krilla's the first person to actually land on a boss panel, revealing it to be Moss Golem, the scariest boss of all of them, if, you know, in my opinion. Takes 3 damage, down to 1 HP. A clutch air raid might be coming soon to take Krilla out, however, so that she won't have to worry about wandering around at 1 HP. Sora has a decision to make, chooses to take her own home, level up to level 3, and follows through with the Windsnorma despite only having 4 wins. Okay, interesting. We do have Battlefield. I think the decision, as Krilla uses a max stack hyper to KO every other player, as well as dealing 4 damage to the boss. Air Raid comes through the turn after. I do think the decision of whether to go for Windsnorma from 3 to 4, like after the boss is spawned, is a little bit easier when Battlefield is one of the field events that makes it slightly easier to get wins. So I respect it. I respect only being 1 away and deciding to go for wins, but this is the first time Sora has fallen to passive damage, I believe, and will not have to roll recovery, as on the other end of the board, Peat takes the Norma, is up to normal 5. Marc notices this, wants to deal as much damage to Peat as she can, but only finds 1 damage and takes 1 in return. Yeah, Peat is pretty decently close, 25 stars away from having match point. That's what, 5 turns of bonus at this point? But we'll see. Did play a nice present, so we'll see if anything you draw can be used to keep yourself alive. Finds an easy evade against the chicken, who finds an easy evade against himself. We'll see how this pans out. Marc is looking pretty intent to just follow Peat around to... Oh, decides not to fight Peat. Says, I'm gonna... You know, I've got a few turns. Peat's not gonna win instantly. I'll go for the card draw. Maybe I'll get something that's... that could help me defeat Peat in a turn where it's more... dire, if you will. Peat plays the Passionate Research, does not find a hyper. Does find a home panel, however, getting himself up to full health. And with the revival of Sora, all of our players are up. All of our players are at max health, except for Krilla, who's down 1. Krilla, meanwhile, just moving around the board, picking up stars where she can. She wants to get back home so she can hit normal 4. Not much to be said. Our players just are finding their way around. Peat gets a nice bonus panel. And with the start of the next turn, or start of this turn, rather, he's now only 1 turn away from having match point. Sora opts to deal 4 damage to Moss Golem. Moss Golem's defense is low enough to where you can deal a bunch of damage to him in 1 shot. So fair enough. 1 more good shot might take him out. He's down to 4 HP, which is normally not very low for a boss, but for Moss Golem or for Flying Castle, that might be a low amount of HP, depending on what you've got going on, what you've got in your hand. Marc says, I'll try it out, but only finds 1 damage and finds a 9 awaiting her as the retaliation attack falls to Moss Golem. Krilla gets warped around, finds somebody else's home, and gets up to normal 4. Chooses wins again because they've already met the prerequisite to level up. Peat finds a home panel, but is not quite at 200 stars, is now at 200 stars, has match points. As on the other side of the board, Sora decides to fight. Krilla says, you know what, I may kill you, I may not. If I do, I will Norma. If I don't, I'm Sora military, that's what I do, I fight. All is good. If I don't, I may, you know, force you to pay the Krilla tax, get a couple stars out of you. It's better than having to land on a boss panel and die, as Krilla, now only at 1 stack, decides to convert her hyper. It's a good idea because of how low health pool her enemies are. She doesn't need that many stacks for it to be an effective card, and especially with it at 1 stack, she can use it simply to do chip damage and to then finish off an important target with a regular attack to actually gain the rewards from a kill. She does decide to fight Peat because landing on the panel Peat's on guarantees a Norma, but only finds 1 damage onto Peat. Peat finds 0 onto her. She gets a nice Norma 5. Killing Peat at this point would put her in match points. And Peat has chosen the internal route, the goo-covered route, as he tries to get around the board to level up. Krilla finds 1 more ping damage onto Peat, but there is a 7 awaiting her, and cannot find the defense roll necessary to survive. Peat, however, rolls a 1, lands on the boss panel, will only be able to roll a 1 to fight the boss, even with an on fire, and unfortunately does take the full front of Moss Golem's power and falls. Moss Golem now down to 2 or 3 HP. I didn't see, I wasn't paying attention, but is absolutely loaded. Moss Golem now has enough stars on hand to where whoever kills him will almost assuredly be put in match point. Marc says, you know what, I got a trick up my sleeve, I'm going to try to use reverse attribute field to take out the boss. Unfortunately, that makes Moss Golem an extremely adept evader, evades Marc's attack and finds no damage in retaliation. So Sora says, I will take that bounty, finds not only enough stars to potentially put her at match point should she you know, get up to the requisite Norma count, finds enough wins to get her next level up. And sure enough, Krilla uses her hyper to find the 2 chip damage on Peat, as I was insinuating earlier, bringing him down to 1 HP and making him a nice, easy kill so that she can profit, make up some of the difference from when she had previously died to the boss. That damage also did take out Sora, which is going to lock her in place for a few turns, but it will mean she gets to revive on full HP, and not a common occurrence for Sora, to be sure. Air Raid game uses Air Raid and then feels bad about it, so uses Charity to give everyone a card. Princess's Privilege is not a card I see very often, but it can be effective if your entire hand sucks and you need a hand reroll. Krilla does not find a hyper with that reroll, however. Everyone in the game would be alerted to the presence of it if it did happen. She will, however, fight Sora. Sora is a very rich target, I cannot blame her, but only rolls a 1. Sora retaliates with a 7, but luckily Krilla's tanky enough to only have to pay the tax. Commentator gonna take a sip of water because his throat's dying. It's true that Sora is now the richest player, as she defeats a Robo Ball that was also loaded for some reason. Up to nearly 400 stars. She almost has enough to be defeated and still hold 200 stars. Krilla continuing to chase her down, continuing to want to fight her, to want to take a little bit of that pot, but cannot find any damage. Every one of her attempts is evaded. Luckily, in her following, however, Krilla is fighting a few encounters with neutral monsters. As a gentleman's battle is played by Peat onto Sora. Sora once again proves to be evasive. Peat mirrors her evasiveness, but no damage is found on Sora. A big target on her back, despite only being Norma 3, or level 3, however you prefer to pronounce it. Getting up and over 400 stars. Massive target on her back. Krilla is 40 stars away, so she could weigh the difference between killing Sora and immediately putting herself in match points, or trying to just chill out, get those 40 stars before Sora has a chance to get up to level 5. Peat would be in match point from killing either of those players, nearly. I think with the advent of the next turn, Peat would put himself in match point by killing anybody except for Marc, I believe, since Marc died on the previous turn to a neutral monster, but Sora gets up to level 4, gets fought by Krilla once again, and says, you know what, this time, I'm sick of you. I'm gonna play Final Battle, you're gonna stop hitting me. Takes a massive hit, though, on turn 1 of 3 damage, down to 1 HP already, finds a nice evade on the next turn, but Krilla is so tanky, she will just continue to take 0 damage and max stacks, unless Sora can keep evading. She can't keep evading, and Krilla finds the lethal damage necessary to take her out to take match point, and because she ended her turn on a normal panel, finds a nice, clean victory.